Rob Cowley, welcome to Jazz FM 91, Jazz and the Arts.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
I can remember walking into a friend's home and seeing an actual Robert Bateman on his wall, and then into another room and seeing an original Group of Seven. And I thought, and I would imagine many of us would think, that doesn't seem like an attainable goal.
It's true.
Yeah, this man's very well off. But you say we might be able to think differently about this.
Definitely, especially through the auction industry especially. Although auction houses and galleries will always promote those works, in their advertising that sell for the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars, the truth is there's a wide array of artwork. Some by those artists that are quite attainable to the everyday and the new collector.
Okay, I think we're going to get into some of the finer points about how that might come to be. But where do you start? You have a couple $1,000s. Where do you go from there? What should we know up front with that type of a budget?
The best place to start, we usually say, is research.
Right.
And that can be quite a pleasurable experience.
Sure.
Because that just means going to auction previews, going to galleries, both commercial galleries and the institutions like the AGO and the McMichael, and just taking a look at different artwork and seeing what pleases you and seeing what you have an interest in and kind of just training your eye, as we call it. Beyond that, going to different websites. There's many different databases out there. And with the internet of now, of course, you can view so much different art, especially by specific artists and specific schools, specific movements. So you can really kind of find exactly where your interest may lie without necessarily investing right away.
Now, at that point, you don't necessarily know the value. You're just assessing based on pure pleasure.
Yes.
Which is sort of an interesting starting point.
Well, it is. And because you'll find that you may have an interest in the work of A.Y. Jackson, let's say, a member of the Group of Seven.
Yeah.
His works can sell anywhere from $10,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars. That being said, there are many artists who are contemporaries and who painted with Jackson, artists like R.W. Burton, whose work sells for under $1,000 and is quite attainable. And these are original works of art as well.
Talk to me about the difference between investment and art appreciation. Where do those two worlds sit in your mind, or is there a difference?
Well, we definitely do promote the idea of making sure those are hand in hand. Although investment is important, and although that is part of the research, can be looking at different auction databases, some of which are free to use, to look at how an artist may have appreciated over time, where his market may be, his or her market may be. We also still, it's the age-old idea that you should be buying what you like, something you can live with. Because in 5 years, if you find that you're looking to sell it, but it's not quite the right time, it should still be something that pleases you and that you have pride in.
You're listening to Arts Toronto on Jazz FM 91. My guest is Canadian fine art specialist, auctioneer, appraiser, and president of Consigner Canadian Fine Art, Rob Cowley. Commerce has often played a role in the making of art. Of course, we think of some of the great artists. They weren't there without patrons and so on. When commerce is involved, do we find that it does shade our judgment at all when suddenly money is on the table? That's probably a difficult question for somebody in your position.
It is. However, at the same time, we do find in the industry, you do sometimes get those reactions to the extremes. So when someone comes in and sees an abstract work of art that is priced at $20,000 in one of our fine art sales, sometimes there are questions about where the value comes from and exactly where commerce plays a role. And a lot of it is just understanding where value comes from, that it can be the history of the artist, and what they're best known for, and all those factors. At the same time, I do understand sometimes, especially when you see the sales in New York and you see paintings selling in excess of $100 million, that there definitely are those questions and
that's
some understanding
a lot of water cooler conversations the next day
happening
based on. I can certainly think of a few Rothkos where people were thinking, "What the heck? What was the money for?"
Absolutely,
there's two colors there. Talk to me about the December auction. What might be some notable pieces that fall within that budget that we were talking about?
It's an online auction. We do online auctions at consigner.ca. We also do have a gallery at 326 Dundas Street West, right across from the AGO. Our auction right now, it's open for bidding currently. It closes on the 9th, coming up on Wednesday.
Right.
It includes a wide array of artwork. It's actually an excellent auction for the beginning collector. Most of the work is valued under $1,000. It includes original works of art by many artists, including Thomas More Martin, who was an early 20th century painter, P.C. Shepard, who was a contemporary of the Group of Seven, as well as a wide array of different types of both historical and contemporary prints, some by George Broomfield, many by Harold Town as well, all the way through to some interesting exhibition posters and art books as well.
All right, so the online experience, let's talk about that for a moment, because I think there's that jump that people have to make where they're saying, okay, I'm seeing this image on a computer. That can maybe be a little intimidating. How do they make that jump where they can feel comfortable?
We encourage people to take a look online, certainly to take an initial look at the works.
Yeah.
However, whenever they can, certainly for people in the Toronto area, we have a 2-level gallery across the street from the AGO. We're open 9 to 5 all the way through until the end of bidding, where you can view all of the works in person. We definitely do recommend that, not only because different screens will show will have different intensities of color, but also for size, for color, all of those things. And it's always best to feel a level of comfort with the artwork before bidding. As well, our specialists are there. So we are present in the gallery. So you can speak to us about the artwork you're interested in.
We know about purchasing with our heart. That's easy enough. I like something, I'm going to go with it. But if you are looking at it from an investment purpose, and why not? I mean, there's a million different investments out there. What should we make sure we're not purchasing? And that's maybe wouldn't come up in your business necessarily, but if people are looking through different items.
I mean, buying what you like is very important. At the same time, you can also place kind of smart parameters around that. You can still look at the categories within that. So and just be educated as to what you may be investing in. One area where we usually do provide some caution are prints that have a very high series number. So a print that may be out of, say, 2,500 is probably not going to increase in value much over time. However, in the sale that we have right now, we have a print by William Kurlak, the Prairies painter. I believe it's out of 50. So only 50 exist in the marketplace. His work has held its value very well, and if anything, his market has been stronger over time. And Harold Town, the same, the Toronto painter. We have many prints in the sale. He was a fantastic printmaker, many of which are valued, again, in the low hundreds of dollars, and many are in runs under 200. So it does limit the amount of artwork in the marketplace. And these prints as well, the difference with these prints many times are that the artist had an involvement in the creation. Sometimes when you get into the prints that are 2,500 and they're reproductions of original work, the artist themselves may not have been that involved. And it does play a role in the long-term value for the artwork.
Have you ever run into a situation where, okay, we know that this is only going to appreciate so much money, but something happens in the news, someone passes away, or suddenly have you watched value sort of oddly jump up?
It can happen,
right.
Absolutely. I mean, we had an appraisal day a couple of years ago where we had a work by William Kurlak that came in. The client had no idea what they had. As it turned out, it had been given to them by the artist, and the artist had actually exchanged it with him for some strudel that he had tried. And then as appreciation, he gave them a painting. And this is in the 1970s when Kurlak was known in Toronto but hadn't reached a high level of fame. His work has continued to do well over time. We offered that painting around $10,000. It sold for about $40,000. And again, it was the story and certainly the subject matter and all those factors, and also a market for Kurlak that has continued to grow over the past 10 years.
Talk to me about the role of an auctioneer in the modern world. I think that moniker evokes a certain idea in people's heads. What is that job to you at this point?
It's very much acting as a guide, as a professional guide,
right.
In terms of providing as much. And now, I mean, in terms of the actual auctions themselves, the auctions I take part in both live and online, that's usually a small part of our season. And it's an incredible job. It's a lot of fun.
Now, do you do the actual fast talking situation with a live auction?
I've
you
done
do
that
that?
For many years I've done that. With other auction firms, I've done live auctions for many years, for about 15 years. And then I've also...
That's a specific skill.
It is. Very specific skill. I was very lucky to kind of essentially fall into it. Originally, I have a theater degree as well, so that helped with some of the nerves.
Sure, yeah.
And some of the performance. But certainly it's a very interesting job and very enjoyable.
Robert Cowley, what a fascinating conversation, and you are certainly an expert within your field, and I appreciate you stopping by to share with us.
Thanks very much, Mark. It was my pleasure.